Hi, my name is Annette Kohler, and this is my topic brief for EDUC 6560. I decided to go with the topic of parent involvement, and before I begin getting into the information about my brief, I want to share a clip with you that kind of resonated with me and is the reason I wanted to do this on parent involvement. So let me share that with you right now. And what this is this is a teacher, so this doesn't have to do with parent involvement, but the quote she mentions just really kind of stemmed my desire to learn more about parent involvement in schools. And her situation is that she was fired from her job, allegedly for not grading a portion of the standardized test. So I just want to share quickly a quote that she states in her interview with Fox News.
Testing day doesn't teach kids anything. And so I need that time. They give more and more tests, and I do less and less teaching, and then I'm held more and more accountable.
The acuity test is a compilation of
All right, so if you didn't catch that, she says they give more and more tests, and has less and less time to teach, yet she's held more and more accountable. And I completely agree with that. So that stemmed in me, well, what can we do about this? Why are teachers being so accountable for so much more testing, yet we're given less time to teach in the classroom? And so the teacher side of me thought, well, what are parents doing? Why aren't parents being held accountable? What are the parents doing to support us? What are we doing to support parents? How can we work together so that it's not all on the teachers? I've had so many colleagues that get little support in their classroom. I've experienced little support in the classroom, yet the children are the ones who are with their parents for most of the day, and right now I'm not with their students. They're on summer break with their families. They should be the first teacher in their life. So with my topic brief, I really wanted to focus on a few things. So let me get my presentation up. All right, so we'll be discussing parent involvement. Okay, so why is this important to education? What are the barriers to parent involvement? I'll go into the parent discussions that I had and how does this apply to the role of an administrator. So getting out of that teacher mindset and now thinking, okay, why is parent involvement important to me as a future administrator? So there are definitely more benefits than academic behavior and school effects, but these are just some of the most important ones. And as I was doing the research, study after study showed that, yes, students do perform better academically from having their parents involved. And, oops, let me get that back up again. And when they are involved, students perform better, their test scores go up, they have better attitudes, they complete their homework more often, and they have better attendance roll. So all around, they become a much better student. What I pointed out in my topic brief was that we have to be careful as parents the type of involvement we have, and while it is a support to the students in their academics, it can also be negative. So there is too much of a good thing, and too much can have a negative effect. But if parents have the right amount of support, the correct amount, supporting their students beyond just homework help, then they will perform a lot better. As for behavior effects, they are a lot better in school, and their behavior is much more positive. Again, if it's the negative kind of support they're getting from home, let's say they're performing poorly in school and the parent has to have negative conversations with them day after day about their poor performance, it's going to continue to carry out. It's not going to become positive. Parents really have to have conversations with their students with their children that are positive, and therefore will promote positive behavior in the classroom. What I really like is that the school benefits from this too. It's not just the students that benefit, it's the school as well. When the students are being supported by their parents, they in turn perform better. That reflects better on our standardized test scores and as a school. So when we get parents involved, it really starts a domino effect, and the students in the school are all affected. Okay, and there's many barriers to parent involvement, and I'm just going to touch on social status, language barriers, and lack of knowledge. And we tend to see lower socioeconomic status students suffering because they don't get as much support. And many times it's due to the parent having a lack of education themselves. It can be to the parent working 2 to 3 jobs and they just aren't there to support the student. And so we as educators look at that as this child comes from a poor background, they're not going to, do as well. But what we don't see is sometimes that there is support going on that isn't always school related. And one of them that was talked about was that, these parents can be giving their child time away from chores so that they can focus on their homework, or just helping them out in different ways. So one way I'll talk about later was that a school actually hired 2 parent volunteers to help with parent involvement, and I'll talk about that later because this school was in a low socioeconomic status area, so these coordinators kind of helped out these parents in this area, but I'll touch on that later. Language barrier is huge, and from my ESL background, I've seen that this is such a big area, and a whole topic brief could be done on the language barriers and students from diverse backgrounds, but it definitely is a barrier for parents who have limited English skills or limited knowledge about American culture, and it's hard for them to get involved when they just don't know about our schools and about our customs and culture. It's very hard. Some other things that happen is we send home information to them in their language, which is really helpful, but a lot of the times it can be at a level that's a little bit beyond their educational knowledge. Again, we deal with parents from very poor countries and poor backgrounds, and sometimes we're sending home very formal letters that they may not understand due to their limited education. So when there's a language barrier, we really have to make sure we're on the same level with the parents and we get to know them, their situation, their culture as well. We have to meet them halfway. They're trying to learn our culture, we need to learn theirs as well. And just having open conversations with the parents, finding a way to meet as a group between administrators and teachers and parents so that they can all talk about the best way to help their child succeed, because these parents do want to help their child, they just don't know the best way how to in a new country. The last point is the lack of knowledge, and parents just sometimes don't know how to support their child. They don't know what the best way is, they don't know the most effective way, and that's where teachers really need to help them out and give them constructive ways in which they can help support their child better with their education. One school in California actually sends teachers to their students' house, and that way they can see where they're living, their home life, meet their family face to face, get to know them on a personal level beyond the walls of the school, and just have that contact with them. And it has to, sometimes we have to go beyond a phone call and email. We have to continue pushing to get to know these parents. We have to build relationships with them. We have to know where they struggle and what their strengths are so that we can help them to be more involved in their child's education. So what I did for my field activity was I had some discussions with some parents about their influence on their child and their involvement with their school. And so these are just the questions that I talked to them about. I wanted to know what type of involvement they have with their child's education. Do they help with homework? Do they volunteer? Discussions, conferences, PTA, attending school events, communication? Which one has the most influence? How does your child respond? How did their child do in school, and what positive and negative outcomes have you seen? And for the most part, a lot of the parents had positive experiences with being involved in their child's education. Their children were getting A's and B's or better. Their children were really passionate about what they were learning. They just had a really positive outlook on school. But I did notice as talking to those parents, and I talked to parents who had children in elementary school and some who had in high school and some a mixture of both. And the ones that had children in elementary school were a lot more involved with their child than the ones that were in high school. Of course, there was still support going on in high school, but just not as much as it was when the child was in elementary school. And I just think that that's due to the child growing up and parents wanting to give them more independence and not kind of be that helicopter parent. So I can see that being a positive and helpful to the student, because I feel like if they were as involved as they were when they were in elementary school, it would turn into a negative effect on the child. So I definitely see that as a positive. But again, like I said, more involvement elementary age, less involvement middle school, high school age. There were 2 parents that had negative experiences. One was because the parent just wasn't involved at all. The parent had had negative experiences with school themselves growing up and just didn't want to have much to do with the school, and therefore the child suffered. Another parent was involved, but it wasn't really, it didn't help the child, and they didn't want that involvement from their parents, so they kind of reacted negatively to their parents' involvement. But the parent just felt that that was because the child has a different way of learning, different needs than other students, and so school wasn't always conducive to the way he wanted to learn. So, as an administrator, I really know, I really have a passion for getting parents involved, because it can't all be on the teachers. Teachers can only do so much. Administrators can only do so much. I wish we were miracle workers. I wish kids could come to us every day and then at the end of the school year they were on level or above. But it takes more than just the parent or just the teachers to reach these students. And we really, really need the support of the parents, the community, give these children the best education that they can. So by supporting parents, they will in turn support their child. They have to know that the school is not against them, that we're actually for them. We want them to be there. We want to get to know them. We want to help them out. And there's many educational things that we could do to educate the parents, such as having workshops where they can come in and learn the best ways to support their child. Or when I worked in Omaha, there were classes each summer that helped the refugee families learn about the culture, learn about American schools. That way they could better serve their students. Parent outreach. So this is what I was talking about earlier with the socioeconomic status. The school that was discussed in an article I read had 2 parent volunteers, and they were hired to work exclusively with parents. And I thought this idea was amazing, and I wanted to make sure I included it in my presentation. The roles were defined as parent volunteer coordinator and public relations promoter. And like I said, 2 aides that were hired to work exclusively with parents and get them into the school. And I just thought what a fantastic resource that would be as an administrator to be able to do to help my parents. And while the school was in a low area and therefore had not as much money, the principal still thought it was money well spent to get parents involved. And if I am in that position and I want to get parents, I think I would definitely find the funds necessary to hire 2 people that could do this, because teachers and administrators can only go so far, and we only have so many hours in the day. But if we have people whose job is dedicated to that, think about how much more support we could have coming to our school. Another thing is culture. We need to know the culture of the people we serve. We need to know their background and where they come from. We have to get to know them and build those relationships like we would any other friendship that just like I have with my, my neighbor. You have to continually build those things. You can't just meet them and say, okay, I met them, we're good. You have to continually nourish the relationship and build it stronger, because the parents need to have a relationship with us too in the school so that they can support their child. And then again, the parent coordinators is a great way to get parents involved, and something I hope I can do. All right. So that is my presentation on my topic brief. And it's something I am passionate about and hope that I can implement someday in my school to help my teachers, help my families, help my students, because parents, as a parent myself, I want to be the first person to help my son and my daughter become better educated students. I need to be there for them, and I want parents to have the same opportunities I have and the same knowledge I have to support their children. So this is something near and dear to my heart, being a parent myself, and I think that all parents want to see their children succeed and grow up to be successful adults and have a better life and upbringing than we have. So I think that if schools can reach out and help support the parents, help support the students, then I think we'll see a big change in education. So thank you